Hello everyone, and welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. Let's get back to doing stuff. Last time we had a bit of a heart flutter, quite large heart flutter. Last episode, and it's particularly odd spot. So if you'd like to watch that, do it. I don't care. The loud clatter of books falling into the return slot abruptly breaks the grip of silence over the school library. It's become a bit of a habit for me to come to the library at least once a week. Not only does the reading itself keep me busy, but discussing books with Hanako and Lily also does. Ooh, tiny book club. Obviously startled, Yuko suddenly twists towards the direction of the noise. I'd have thought her used to people dropping books by now, but since she does work here. Oh, hello, Hisao. Back again. It takes me a moment to respond, my mind still distracted by the familiar melody of Lily's humming that's hardly left my ears in the several days since I fell asleep to it. Oh yeah. Just returning some books I borrowed. She casts her eyes downwards, presumably to the bin the books dropped into. You're a very heavy reader, aren't you? It's become a bit of a routine now. It passes the time, at least. I wish I had free time to pass. From small talk to depression in less than 5 seconds, I think that's a new record for her. She seems a bit down in general, even compared to normal. Considering how she has to work 2 jobs just to support herself, I could see how that would take a toll on her lifestyle. Come to think of it, the pay for her job can't be all that bad. The idea of the staff in such a prestigious private school going hungry strikes me as counterintuitive. Working 2 jobs must take a lot of time. I'd probably never manage it. You're lucky being a student. Do you think you'll be able to go to university? As if she's asking, then I guess that's the expected result of having this kind of education. Private schools like this don't exactly come cheap. I guess I have the money, I think. I've got plans which will require going to one, and my marks are good enough. It's more a matter of how I'll pay to do so. University costs so much that I'm having to work 2 jobs to afford to enter it. Paying for daily expenses, too, makes it a lot harder. If you're reading this much, though, that means you're doing well in school, right? Interesting logical jump. Not an altogether wrong one, though. I suppose so. I didn't find any of the exams very hard, aside for maybe 1 or 2. Do you mind if I ask what studies you're pursuing in the university? Yukos appears... Oh, I should have read that as Hisao. That's okay, though. Yuko appears genuinely brightened at the question. Anthropology. To be exact, I'm specializing in the history of classical era Athenian civilization and democracy. She really seems to know her stuff. Such enthusiasm is to be admired. And it's nice to see her genuinely excited about something. I guess even someone like Yuko can be happy if she has a visible road ahead of her. That's good to hear. Both of us jump at the sound of the sudden interruption coming from my pocket. Apologizing profusely and quickly shuffling into the hallway as I fumble with the cover of my mobile phone, I glance at the screen. Weird. It's a mobile number I don't recognize, considering I can count the number of people with my one hand. Count the number of people with my number on one hand. I don't like the number. On one hand, I briefly wonder whether it's a telemarketer that left out. Hello, Hisao Nakai speaking. Geez, pick up faster next time. Anyway, guess who? I'm gonna go ahead and guess it is Akira. It only takes me a second to recognize that distinctively deep, brusque voice. Hey, Misha. Oh, it's Misha. Didn't expect you to call me. Huh? You actually think I sound like her? Not at all, Akira. I don't remember giving you my phone number though, so I thought mess with you. Oh, that. I got Lily to give it to me. Not that hard. She positively brims with pride at the statement. She's trying to get me caught up in her pace, I know it. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised that the two would share the number given how close they are. So, what's up? You free right now? I guess? Why? Could you meet me at the park in town? I just wanted to talk to you about some stuff. Is that an invitation to a date? What? Of course not. She sounds suddenly crestfallen, like her previous teasing nature having instantaneously left. It seems strange for her. Anyway, I don't see why not. When do you want to meet? Kind of now-ish? Wait, right now? But it's... A dead silence coming from my phone announces the fact that she's unceremoniously hung up. For a long time, I just stand there, staring at the call-ended message on the screen while replaying the conversation in my head. What the hell, Akira? Throwing a glance up and down the street, I cross the road and step into the park. I've learned to pace myself on such walks, mostly because Lily's slower speed during our forays into town means I have to consciously slow myself down. That aside, I hope Akira doesn't expect me to be immediately prompt. Is she drinking a Natty Light? I know that's not literally Natty Light, but you know, I mean cheap beer. I know that's like, you know, less of a thing in Asian countries, I hear. At least in China. It takes only a couple of seconds to spot her, waiting on a bench with a can of beer in her hand. Yep. It's Natty Light, boys. The look she gives me as I walk lacks any hint of acknowledgement or greeting. What's with that look? I needn't have come, you know. I knew you would. You're that kind of person, after all. I lower my brow at her remark as she disposes of the can, emptied by the time I arrived. The metallic clatter rings out. Akira takes a seat on the old wooden bench and I follow her lead. She takes another can of beer from her and beside her and opens it before speaking, taking a large gulp. She seems to really like that stuff. I suppose I don't need to ask what this is about, or rather, who it's about. I heard from Lily that you asked about our family, and for that I'm gonna have to cut you. I really liked you, Hisao. I mean, they seem to share more than phone numbers, that's for sure. I'd probably be very worried right now if it weren't for the total lack of malice in her voice. Rather, the tone seems almost wistful. Idle curiosity, mostly. I hate to admit it, but I never guessed that you two were half Scottish. She gives a wry chuckle of amusement. I've heard that before, trust me. The small smile fades from her face, her eyes looking ahead distantly. Aside from the occasional elderly couple talking as they slowly walk and meandering the paths and the odd aging car, it's pleasantly quiet. She didn't tell you everything, though, did she? It was pretty brief. Your parents live in Scotland, she hasn't met them since she was 12, and she wants to meet them again. It's always surprised me how devoted she is to her parents, for all the good they did us. The way she says it almost sounds derisive. She gives a small sigh as if to quickly brush the feelings away. Why do you think they left, Hisao? Why do I think they left? From what Lily told me, it was because of work. I guess a pretty decent paying job was involved as well, given the way your parents seem to live. So Lily went to a private school, and that's why she carries herself with the airs and graces of the upper class. Yeah. Since the business in Inverness boomed, our father decided to move directly into the same city as its headquarters. That's just the conclusion I thought you'd come to. You're too good-natured. You don't think they left for their career? I'm sitting here bitching to you about it. What do you think? Yamaku Academy, I've always felt that place was kind of creepy. Like it was an isolated hideaway for those proper society doesn't want to see nor hear. They probably just rue the fact that Lily wasn't old enough to be shoved there by the time they left. A long silence follows her abrupt and very harsh criticisms of her parents and Yamaku. Lily's blindness is hardly something that could be ignored for a high-class family attempting to keep up appearances. Much less so when a lucrative offer is on the table. Especially, eventually Akira gives a derisive snort, her feelings coming to a head. Moving to secure our financial future with his new job posting. Even at the time, I hardly believed it. Not wanting to simply be an avenue for her venting, I gently try to steer the conversation. So you stayed in Japan with Lily, then? I either stayed with her or she went to live with an ailing grandmother and grandfather. What about Shizune's family, if you're cousins, then? Our fathers hate each other. I'd have been more than happy to tell them to go screw themselves and live with them anyway, but Lily wouldn't have wanted that. I'd also have an offer for a job by then, so we did our best to keep our parents' house in proper shape and tried to continue our lives as if they'd never left. So you just lived by yourselves, basically. Lily had school and I had my job, so we weren't exactly languishing. With her schooling, her study, and having to do chores while I worked, though, I can't help feeling I failed her. In the end, I tried to be there for her and screwed it up. Expecting a 19-year-old to be a mother for a blind child, it's ridiculous. So Lily and Akira lived alone after their parents moved. With Lily largely taking care of herself, I guess that explains her apparent independence compared to many in Yamaku. I may have lived alone much of the time since my parents both worked, but that's just something else entirely. Sorry for making you listen to my moaning, Hisao. I don't mind at all, but do you mind if I ask why you're telling me this? You always were curious. Context, I suppose. Life isn't a fairy tale, Hisao. Some people have to learn that the hard way. She takes a long drink from the can in her hand, her face becoming more depressed than distant. I broke up with my boyfriend a few days ago after I leave. We're not going to be able to see each other again, but that's how life is. You can't set your life up and expect it to stay that way forever. Sometimes stuff happens. You have to learn to roll with it, even if it means hurting yourself or others. She takes a long breath before looking up at the bright orange sky. Damn, if I smoked, I could take a nice long drag right about now and look kinda cool. I want to respond to help her in whatever way I can, but I'm short a pack of cigarettes and a lighter, but I feel utterly useless. This kind of situation is one I've never been in, and simply don't have the experience to say anything meaningful to comfort her. Akira looks over and evidently picks up on this, much to my embarrassment. I must look pretty pathetic right now, whining about this to someone I barely know. Hardly. I'm pretty much an expert at looking pathetic. She gives a chuckle, the act feeling like a personal victory for me. You're a good kid, Hisao. When I said that I approved of you being with my sister, I wasn't joking or being nice. She picks herself up, off the seat, with a grunt, one that seems ill-fitting given her age, and throws the now empty can into the bin after one last swig. It's unfortunate that doesn't really count for much in this world. When I said that I was leaving for Scotland, I was doing it because a good position opened up in our company's headquarters. When our folks told me that we were at their place, though, they also gave Lily a summons to rejoin them in Inverness. No way. Her evasiveness when asked about the future, that awkwardness that had steadily grown between us, that uncharacteristic outburst of anger, all of them suddenly fit into place. The same family that she reminisced about after Hanukkah's birthday party, the same family that left her and Akira to themselves after taking flight to greener pastures. Now I feel stupid for never cornering Lily on what was bugging her. I had never even considered if something had happened during her trip to her family's home at Inverness. And now a sense of unease grows in my chest. If her family has summoned her to join them in Scotland, all the way on the other side of the earth, has she accepted? Lily hasn't told me whether she plans to accept, and it seems that she hasn't told you either. That's why I called you down here to talk to you, Hisao. Context, huh? I sit back, my feelings of worry and frustration no doubt written all over my face. Lily's a strong person, Hisao, but she's not infallible. I guess it's my job to worry about her, being her older sister, but I think that you deserve to know. I understand. You okay? You sound depressed. No, I'm just thinking. That's good. Thinking's good. Being rash won't get you anywhere. She looks at her watch, barely moving her wrist. I've got to go too. I've got to go. Will you be okay? I'll be fine. Don't worry. I'll have to talk to Lily about it and get everything sorted out. She gives a smile, but it doesn't feel all that genuine or sincere. Really, both of us dancing around the fact that Lily's on the precipice of the biggest decision of her life and is trying to take the entire burden on herself. And part of that burden is the matter of our relationship. By the time I look up, Kira's walking off with her hand held up. For the first time in a long while, I finally have an answer to something. Perhaps not even that, but at least I now have the right question to ask. Will you leave or stay? Damn. Trouble at the 11th hour. Hurry, Lily. I'm moving as fast as I can. I can barely make out Lily's voice over the deafening pounding of the rain, even though I dislike pulling her around. The situation calls for it. I turn forward, my free hand over my head in a futile attempt to at least keep my hair dry. My vision seems to be in grayscale. The weather really is rotten. This really is rotten weather for summer, and the last kind of climate I'd want for a date. A pity I'd even checked the weather forecast beforehand, one of the very few times I've ever done so, only for it to say Sunday afternoon would be fine. Looking to Lily, her shoulders are by now completely drenched, with her right hand holding tightly to mine, and her left gripping her retracted cane. This horrid downpour came on just as we were between our destination and Yamaku, so we decided to try rushing the rest of the distance rather than doubling back. Entirely unused to running this fast, Lily's using all her concentration just to avoid tripping over. Hisao, do you know where we're going? Even she's reduced to shouting to try to be heard over the combined noise of the wind and the rain. The rest of my voice is completely drowned out by an even heavier burst of rain. The what? The Shanghai. How far is it? It shouldn't be far now. It doesn't take long before I call out to her once again. It looks like we're safe. It's just up ahead. I quickly pull up to a stop, and just in front of the familiar exterior, the lantern outside still giving its reliable glow, and wait for Lily to catch her breath before going in. Ladies first. The tiny bell rings when I hold the door open for her, a smile and a polite nod being my reward before entering myself. As I step in behind her, I only a quick glance is necessary to notice the distinct lack of activity. The Shanghai doesn't seem to get much in the way of patronage, and today's no different. Only a couple of tables are occupied. Summoned by the bells ringing, and a most expected person comes to greet us. Welcome to the Shanghai. Yuko looks chipper today. Trying to predict her moods is pretty hard, but it's a nice change from the norm. Hello, Yuko. Hey. Good afternoon, you two. She takes a deep bow, somewhat taken back as she rights herself and gets a better look at us. What happened to you two? You both look... Her eyes drift towards the glass of the door behind us. Oh dear. We're inside now, at least. I think that's the most important thing. It's nice and cozy. You're lucky to be working inside today. It has been nice and quiet. I like days. I like days like this. Wait. Sorry. Is there anything you'd like? French vanilla tea, please. I'll have the same. Right. Coming right up. She quickly skitters off with a determined look on her face, trying very hard not to forget our orders. If nothing else, she is at least dedicated to her jobs. I lead Lily to an empty seat before the two of us settle down. As usual, there's a large difference between my exhausted flopping into my seat and Lily's delicate sliding into hers, her cane set beside her. For a while, I just idly watched the rain falling outside. The occasional person runs down the street, trying to stay as dry as possible, hands often tightly gripping a rain-soaked umbrella. Lily sits just as quietly as I, her eyes closed as she intently listens to all that is happening. It's comfortable, relaxing silence that exists between us, just the type we'd so often shared together in the past months. For Lily, at least. I can't help replaying the words of her sister in my mind. At the time, contrasting them to both our time spent together since I entered Yamaku, and to the way we've been since dating. No matter how much I try, I can't work Lily out. It's as if the harder I try to second-guess her emotions and potential decision, the more difficult it becomes to reach a clear conclusion. It makes me doubt whether I'd ever really understood her in the end. I'm going to have to ask, but even though I very much want to avoid doing so. You seem quite quiet today, Hisao. Really? You seem so enthusiastic about taking me out on a date. I assumed you had something specific you want to do. No, not really. Just wanted to spend some time with you. Is that so? Fine, there was one thing. A little grin finds its way onto Lily's face, her knowing full well that she's bested me. It makes what I want to say all the more awkward. It was just Akira and I were talking. Oh? What's with that tone? You two do seem to get on well, don't you? Well, I do think she's a pretty cool person to talk with. It'd be nice if any of the teachers were anything like her. Cool. For a moment I try to place the tone of her voice, my mouth curling into a smirk as I recognize it. You're not jealous, are you? I'm not jealous. After her teasing me over such a thing on our first date, I don't feel too bad about having a little laugh at her expense this time around. As we settle down, though, it's only a minor distraction from the real point of why I brought Lily here. Don't worry. It was mostly just everyday stuff. That said, there was something Akira mentioned to me that I want to talk to you about. When you went to see your family in Inverness a while back, she said, Akira told you about my family summons, hasn't she? The seconds tick by while I try to read Lily's face. An odd mixture of feelings written on it. She seems annoyed, but also somewhat confused. I'm here. Yuko tentatively slides our drinks onto the table, her presence oddly small. As she walks back to the counter, after a quick polite nod, I realize the air between me and Lily is thick and our expressions are both somewhat pensive. Even though she says I should lead my own life, she still interferes at the worst times. I don't think you should blame Akira here. She's just looking out for you, and it's not like I can't understand her concern over this. Lily's irritation gives way to an awkward and largely unsuccessful attempt to mask her own feelings. She really doesn't deal well with being cornered on personal topics. I know, but I just wanted some more time. I knew you'd have figured it out eventually, but you were intentionally hiding this from me? For how long were you planning to do so? As I said, I simply wanted more time to think it through. I wanted to be sure of my decision before telling you. What did you decide to do in the end? I know what I wanted her to say, but an awful feeling refuses to leave my gut. My family does dearly want me to return to them, and Akira will be going as well. I could still teach as a career, whether it be here or there. So, you're going. How long have you known? I already know you were asked when you first went to Scotland about a month ago. Some time. My frustration is very nearly boils over. The fact that she's done this affects me more than it should. For her to not only be leaving, but to actively be hiding her own plans from me? And after seeing for so long to be the one solid pillar of support and reliability I could depend on, it feels as if the foundation underneath me is suddenly shifting drastically much faster than I can adapt to. Perhaps this isn't so much frustration as sheer unease. Lily? I'm sorry. I wanted to think this through completely. I wasn't trying to take advantage of you, please. I know, Lily. I know. This is just really sudden. I guess this means that once you go, we'll be breaking up. For one of the few times I've seen her since I met her, she looks genuinely lost for words. She doesn't look surprised, no doubt, because the fact had already dawned on her once she became aware of her decision, but rather she appears genuinely unsure of how to deal with the situation that's now in front of her. We could try pursuing a long-distance relationship. They're getting more and more common these days, after all. Even as she says it, the tone of her voice gives away the fact that she truly doesn't believe what she's saying. Oh man, that's a real heart punch. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I got a twinge of emotion there, boys. Let's see here. Be honest with your loved ones. Especially your boyfriend or girlfriend, because that's honestly a shaky relationship, especially early on. And you should let them know about your plans. That being said, going from short distance to long distance is hard. Trust me. Just trust me on that. You want to go from long distance to short distance. Lily is far too old-fashioned to be able to cope with a relationship without any kind of physical presence, and even I am, to an extent. What I'm trying to say is Lily's thirsty and she needs the D. All we would ever be able to be to each other would be a voice from the other side of the world. In the end, trying to rationalize everything is futile. Any attempts to try and connect what's happening with the future or the past seem to get more difficult the more I concentrate. Those quiet moments when we just walked side by side, the precious time we spent with Hanako and Akira, the casual chatter we had during lunchtimes, the times we made love, the confessions of our feeling to each other, all pointless. All just a fleeting moment in our young lives. We're just two children pretending to be adults, aren't we? Long silence hangs in the air between us. The noise of other patrons drinking and talking makes the situation feel more strange and disconnected. Lily's face remains low and her dejected expression clouding it. I'm sorry, Hisao. A simple apology, and no more. She's left entirely without any further response or comment. With a long sigh, I gather what's left of my thoughts and ask her the final question I have for her. When will you be going? I'll be leaving with Akira, so it'll be a little less than a week. What? You weren't going to tell me earlier? Were you going to tell me on like the night before? The beginning of summer holidays. Just a little afterward, yes. Her tone is unusually slow and steady, her apologetic and depressed mood all the more written to her face as she tries to hide it in her voice. In the end, I can't even keep my promise of going to Tanabata with her before she leaves. I look down, seeing my face reflected by a now lukewarm cup of neglected tea sitting in front of me. I really thought I'd left this kind of expression behind. For a while, I just stared down into the still surface, trying to sort through my emotions to get at what course of action I should take, whether it be right now or in the future. But just as before, the effort is wasted. I glance up to Lily to see her gently sipping her cool tea without complaint. Her face drawn and shoulders slumped, she looks to be deep in thought too, a strangely cold atmosphere coming between us as we isolate ourselves to mull things over. Even as Lily's cup slowly empties, mine remains untouched. It's a long time before I notice the rain dying down outside and the few other patrons of Shanghai having left. The chill of the rapidly darkening evening permeates the dormitory hallways. While trudging down the corridor to my room, I see an unwelcome movement from up ahead. Sure enough, the opening of the door opposite mine heralds the arrival of bespectacled Kenji. Hey man, what's... Whoa, dude, you look awful, I think. You okay? He really has a knack for making any situation better. I really don't want to go into it. It's late. Okay, that's cool. If you ever want to talk about it, I'm, here in my room, because I don't ever leave. I look at him for a moment before surrendering my stern front and awkwardly scratching the back of my head, embarrassed by my standoffish response to him. Thanks, Kenji. Hey, it's cool. That's what friends are for, right? Yeah, you're right. See ya. I open the door to my own dorm room and close it behind me as he quickly waves me off. The solid thud of the door against the Doorframe sounds out a final call for the life I've led since coming to Yamako. I just stand in my darkened room, fruitlessly attempting to work out what I should do from this point onwards. What should I do? Man, this game, whenever I think it's gonna end, it just keeps going. Guys, stay safe. Have fun. And try to survive heartbreak. It's not easy. It's probably really, really hard. But it generally is really hard. But remember, one of those things is more important than the others. Bye. Current scene says farewell. I think that means it's gonna be the end, maybe? Who knows? We'll see.